is going to be okay. Today we're going to be reading from Miss Hickory. We have been reading this book for a long time. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind you, or tell you for the first time, I have an Instagram and I have a main channel. Please, please check them out, and they will be linked below. But first, let's start with our reading. This chapter is absolutely perfect. The chapter is Now Christmas Comes. Chapter 9. Christmas is coming. Now Christmas comes. Hey. I'm excited. Now, the day before Christmas, Miss Hickory felt that something important was in the utter feeling that could be put into words or even worked out of her mind. Nothing had changed, but the fields and the forest seemed expectant. Snow lay deep, but it was crisscrossed and mapped by the imprint of small, hurrying feet. Rabbits, winter birds, and deer. The laurel, whose secret hopes keep it green and fresh all winter, pushed up through the snow, asking to be made into Christmas wreaths. The long green fingers of the pine tree held little snowballs, trimming itself for Christmas. Small straight hemlock and spruce trees crowded one another to be Christmas trees. Eve at midnight. My mother took me over there last Christmas to see it. Only we animals and the wingus creatures see it. Small and large, wild and tame, of the earth or with God. We all go over to the barn to watch for it, and no one is afraid of those larger than himself. Bedtime stories, Miss Hickory said crossly as she tucked her covers close about her feet. You go, Squirrel, if you believe all this nonsense. The wonder on Christmas Eve is this, Squirrel continued, not noticing her remark. In one of the barn mangers, the animal to whom it belongs finds the wonder. In the fresh grain of his master at midnight tonight, there will be a small hollow, although the straw notes were freshly laid and not touched. It will be in the shape of a baby's head and body. Do you know what a baby is, Miss Hickory? He asked anxiously. Yes, I've seen them, but never in a barn, in the dead of winter, she said sharply. Nor have you, she snapped. I assure you that I saw Christmas Eve in the barn. Squirrel wrinkled his little gray forehead. Not to be believed. Just a dream that you had last night after eating too many nuts. Oh, I hear you day after day, night after night, cracking, eating. But he would not be silenced. Then all the creatures, the barn creatures and the wild creatures, see the wonder too. Sorry for any noise you hear. My dogs came in the room. Where was I? Then all the animals, the barn creatures and the wild creatures, see the wonder too. They crowd around the manger and, Bosh, said Miss Hickory, I've heard enough of your fancy talk. Get down, Burrows home. You'll be sorry. Squirrel felt that he had been insulted. He rapped Miss Hickory's head so hard with a paw that her hat went askew. Hard-headed, he said as he left her. That was going to be a familiar description of her, Miss Hickory thought. But the fact that she had a nut for a head did make new ideas difficult for her mind to grasp. She was coming to realize that fact. I'll have a good night's rest and go over to the barn in the morning, she thought. Then I can see whatever there is to see. On Christmas Eve, Miss Hickory went to sleep early, and she slept soundly until a loud sound, chimming, awoke her. Like elfin bells and frosted twigs and icicles that covered her tree clashed and twinkled and rang out merry tunes as her tree chimed. Chiming, not chimming. I said that wrong. Apparently I can't read today. All the other trees joined in the chorus until the orchard shook and thrilled with carols. Miss Hickory sat up in bed, and the Christmas Eve moonlight on the snow was so dazzling that she rubbed her eyes, got out of bed, and went farther up Burrows to see what it was all about. As soon as she reached the top, she understood that something extraordinary was taking place. Down from the peak of Temple Mountain into its lee and passing through the orchard in the direction of the barn, Miss Hickory saw a strange procession. Flying ahead like a courier came the crow. But not crow Miss Hickory knew, for this one was white. Following the white crow came robins with sprays of holly on their bills, and the bluebirds carrying laurel leaves. Fawn came next, but to Miss Hickory's surprise, Doe, his mother, was beside him again. The two, Fawn and Doe, stepped lightly and in time to the orchard chimes. They came slowly, neither looking towards the woods or the field, for they were not afraid. Miss Hickory chuckled when she saw Cock Pheasant. Look at this. She was frightened, but the home creatures who mingled fearlessly among these others from far away seemed not at all afraid. A white skunk and her family went by, the woodchucks who came out of their holes for this occasion, and hosts of scampering rabbits and herds of deer. Owls left their holes. The blind moles seemed to have their sight. The large ones in the procession stepped carefully so as to not harm the small ones. Field mice came tripping along the snow leaves, their footprints in a white pattern of dance steps. Foxes, red, blue, and silver passed. Weasels, ermine, and beaver wound in and out of the long parade. Miss Hickory felt dizzy, as if she were losing her mind. When she felt warm breathing on her neck, there, up burrows, she almost fell out of the tree. But it was only Squirrel, who fairly barked in her ear. "What did I tell you, Miss Hickory? Now you'll believe me. I'm off now. You had better hurry, or you will be late." As Squirrel started down burrows, she had another surprise. He was not alone. He was accompanied by an ancient, feeble squirrel whose fur was thin in spots, and whose tail had almost lost its bloom. He chattered up an introduction. "My mother. She's is here just for the celebration. Hurry, if you want to get there in time." "There is no need of haste." Miss Hickory did, however, scramble down burrows. "The barn will not wait for me." But Squirrel did not hear her. The barn will wait for me, but Squirrel did not hear her. She was really somewhat alarmed at being alone on so splendid a night, and she almost coasted down the tree from one icy branch to another. Having reached the ground, she took her place at the end of the procession. An odd little creature with human hands, face, and a long curling tail was just ahead of her. He walked upright. Monkey turned to look at Miss Hickory, then raised one little hand towards the sky, where a great blazing star in the east now outshone the moon. Then he sped on. All contrary to the almanac, Miss Hickory said to herself, no stars are bright in the full of the moon. But she too, small and alone, trailed on in the light of the Christmas star until she reached the barn. At once she felt she had waited too long. The barn door was open, and inside the home animals, cow, twin heifers, old horse, the foals, the sheep and lambs, crowded. Mr. D. Willard Brown, wearing a smartly tied bow of red ribbon, sat primly beside a circle of gray, groaned mice, not even sniffing at them, all perched blinking on the head roost. Fox mingled with the hens. Monkey hung by his tail from a beam at the door of the barn. A long-eared donkey stood patiently waiting, his eyes crossed and his head drooping as if he had reached the end of a long journey. The camels also waited in the barnyard. Miss Hickory darted around to the cattle, but however she tugged at it, it could not open. At last she crept in and out of a maze of legs in the barnyard until she was just inside the barn door. She could go no further. No one harmed her, but no one made way. They all seemed to share a secret that she had been too stiff-minded to believe. So she waited there, and at midnight the Christmas star entered the barn. It shone straight down through the roof and made a line of gold that rested above Wildheimer's stall. There was suddenly a sound of rushing wings inside. Then the creatures, everyone, kneeled down on the barn floor and bowed their heads. Cow, old horse, twin heifers, Mr. D. Willard Brown, among the mice, also bowed his head. Monkey folded his head neighbors arose. They had all, except Miss Hickory, seen the gold imprint of Wild Heifer's manger. The light of the Christmas star faded, and the procession of strange creatures formed and started back again towards Temple Mountain. The barn door closed, and there was again only her sane, snowy world. But it was Christmas morning. Miss Hickory started home, but it was Christmas. Miss Hickory started home. She met Fawn, who was feeding alone through the snow of acre peas, and I mowing the hen pheasants of the Ladies' Aid Society were settling themselves beneath their bed quilt. Not a cock pheasant was in sight. When she reached Squirrel's hole, she peeped in. He was also alone, busy cracking the nuts that he should have been saving. Winter had still far to go. If I hadn't seen it, if I hadn't been there, I should say that I dreamed it, she thought. Then, all at once, Miss Hickory felt that something was really wrong with her. I should have paid heed to Squirrel, she thought. I might have seen inside the manger of the barn, but I was hard-headed. She felt sad and confused. And that is the end of chapter 9. I don't know about you, but I absolutely loved that chapter. I haven't read this book in a very long time, and to be honest, I never read it. My mom read it to me. If you're still watching, I just want to say that sounded a lot like someone who is struggling to understand what others know to be true. The Christmas story, Jesus in the